Good evening, and welcome to the final episode of this season of Shh Productions Vintage Radio Hour. Our collaboration with 30 performers from across the country, an outstanding production staff, and the legacy of audio entertainment that harkens back to the golden days of radio has brought you 12 shows filled with suspense, mystery, fear, and maybe a little murder. The upcoming show, The Big Box, originally airing in 1947 and written by Wyllis Cooper, features Rick Clark, Bob Clark, Rob Clark, David Allen Vargo, and Andy Clark in a spooky tale about the strange things that happen out there on the open road. Now, no, I wouldn't have taken the rig out if it hadn't been for Cavanagh. That's what gets me down, see? I only took it out on account of Cavanagh, and now look.
So you knew Cavanagh before, eh?
Sure, I knew him. Cavanagh was one of my best friends.
And where did you know him?
Well, I met him when I was pushing a rig for Jack Strubing between San Francisco and Salt Lake back in 37, 38. Then for 4 or 5 years, we both of us was on a transcontinental run, New York to L.A., one of those big diesel jobs. We got pretty well acquainted.
I suppose.
Matter of fact, one of the reasons we were such good pals, I guess, was I pulled him out of a thing once, you know?
What kind of a thing?
Well, I turned this 14-wheeler over about 6 miles south of Dwight, Illinois on 66. Cavanagh was asleep in a box.
What box? I don't know anything about trucks, bud.
Oh, well, you know, there's a box up behind the cab with a bunk in it. One guy sleeps while the other drives, see?
Okay, I get it.
Well, so I turn his job over, and Cavanagh, he's pinned in the box. So I pull him out. He was pretty glad.
I guess a guy would be.
Always said he'd save my life sometime.
Yeah?
Even if he had to come back from the dead, he said. Great guy, Cavanagh. You sure you haven't heard anything new?
All we got on the wire is a smashed car and 3 fellas dead.
What could have become of Cavanagh?
Listen, you just go on back to the start of your story, fella. We'll find Cavanagh all right.
If I could do something to help. I mean, I could get me a car and go back there.
The Rangers are out, son. Besides, you're kind of under arrest, see?
I didn't kill those people.
You're a material witness, son. And this here is a mighty funny story. So now I want to hear the rest of it.
Well, do you know Cavanagh?
Oh, pretty much everybody in Big Spring knew Cavanagh, son. This is his hometown.
I know it. Well,
listen, you don't mind if I just make a note or two?
I don't care. Well, so like I told you, I'm on this run, Chicago to Dallas, see? I have me a 1-day layover in Dallas, and then I pick up another big box.
Big box of what?
A trailer. That's what they call a trailer.
Oh.
So I'm down at the dispatcher's office yesterday afternoon, batting a breeze with a couple of guys I know, and wishing I had a beer, even if I had to drink Texas beer. And I hear the dispatcher hollering at me.
George, hey, George.
And I say, yeah, what do you want? And he says,
Come here a minute.
so I walk over to the window. A fellow named Archie. What do you want, Archie? I said.
George, you want to take a rig west?
I'm going back to Chicago.
As a personal favor to me, George?
I don't owe you anything, Archie.
Okay, beer jerk. Look, for a bonus?
I want to go to Chicago. I got a girl.
This is only an overnight hop, George.
No.
Down to Big Spring.
Got a lot of other jockeys around here. Why pick on me?
We haven't got a man to take this one, George. I thought maybe you would and pull me out of a jam.
I'll do pretty near anything for dough, Archie, but
Just overnight. You can come back on the bus tomorrow.
Tomorrow I'll be on my way to Chai.
Listen, George.
Nah.
$50 in it for you.
Nah.
George, listen. I gotta get this rig to Big Spring.
Well, why don't you drive it? Who's the regular driver?
Cavanagh.
What Cavanagh?
Bert Cavanagh. You know him?
They're tall. Heavy set, red haired, got a scar on his forehead.
Yeah.
Well, what's the matter with Cavanagh? He's sick?
You want to take his rig out?
Where is he?
Big Springs, his hometown.
Well, Cavanaugh's one of my best pals. Why, when we was pushing a diesel rig out of San Francisco for Jack Struben in the old days, will he be in Big Spring?
Cavanagh?
Yeah.
Why, sure. He'll be there. Sure, George.
Oh, it's a deal. Where's the rig?
The big red one out there by the pump. See?
I get a helper?
You don't need a helper.
Well, I don't know the road any too well. Haven't been over it in years. I mean, not since Cavanagh I used to.
All you got to do is stay right on 80, all the way in. Stay on the left fork at Weatherford.
I know. The other one goes through Mineral Wells and all over Texas till it comes back at Abilene.
You remember all right.
Oh, good old Cavanagh. I haven't seen him since before the war.
Yeah, well, here's your manifest.
What you got it sealed up for?
Don't open it.
What am I hauling?
Never mind.
Listen.
Look, George, you agreed to take the load. Now go on and don't give me an argument. You want the $50 now?
No, keep the $50, Archie. I'm doing this for Cavanagh.
Well,
seeing that ugly mug of his will be bonus enough, kid. Oh, where do I put the box when I get there?
our place is right off the main drag, George. Where you see the Oldsmobile sign?
Oh, okay. I think I know.
To the left.
Yeah. Where will I find Cavanagh when I get there?
What? Why, Cavanagh will be there at the place when you get there.
You sure, Archie?
I can make you a promise, George. You get there, Cavanagh will be there.
So I said, okay. And as I started to walk away, I thought I heard Archie say something.
Because that's the way Cavanagh's going to get there.
And I said, what'd you say, Archie?
I didn't say anything, George.
No, I thought you said something about Cavanagh getting there.
I didn't say a word.
Well, so I think to myself, I'm hearing things. And I walk out to the yard and over to the big red box. There's a grease monkey there, and I say, sign me out, Buster. And he gives me the eye.
You gonna push Cavanagh's rig, George?
And I said, you got any objection? He just hands me the book to sign.
You can have it, George.
And I said, look, fatty, you trying to tell me something? He just stood there and shook his head. And I said, well, then, get out of my road. And I climb up into the cab and wound her up.
Well,
Huh?
go on.
Well, so I head west. It's about 6:30 when I leave Dallas. And I make the 33 miles to the Fort Worth city limits in about an hour. Then I go on towards Weatherford. And I make Weatherford about 9 o'clock. And I think I can stand a cup of Java and maybe a big slice of one of them Weatherford watermelons. So I pull up at a place just this side of the square where I see a couple of diesel jobs standing. And I go in and I have me a slab of watermelon, 2-3 cups of coffee. And it's pretty dark when I come out. The diesel guys tell me about a wreck up ahead and there at Brad where a couple of boys missed the turn off 16 coming down from Mineral Wells and laid themselves in their jalopy out like a blueprint all over the road. So I says, thanks, and I'm off again. So I'm off again, and I will say that Cavanagh sure had a way with grease monkeys. This big old box is rolling like a Katy flyer, and the moon's just coming up, and I feel pretty good, figuring I'm going to see my boy Cavanagh in the morning. And it's going to be a thing after not seeing the boy for 6-7 years. And I'm whistling away happy as a peanut roaster and doing a very pretty 50. And it's no time at all when I see the flares on the road where the wreck was. So I slow down and crawl along. And them diesel guys wasn't kidding. This was pieces of that jalopy spread over half an acre. Some officious jerk, waved me down. So I pulled up and hopped out. They were single lane in the traffic, see, so I had to wait a few minutes. And finally, the guy gave me the highball, and I climbed back in and eased her over into the bottom corner and kind of squidged along. You know, it's dark in the cab, and I was watching now pretty careful so I wouldn't sideswipe somebody's Model T. It wasn't until I was past the last pair of headlights that I came to.
What do you mean, came to?
There was somebody in the cab with me.
There was, huh?
Sure. It was Cavanagh.
And you recognized him?
Sure, I switched the cab lights on.
Couldn't have been a mistake.
Listen, officer, I know Cavanagh better than anybody does. Sure, it was Cavanagh.
Okay, so then what did you do?
No, I wasn't going to let him have a laugh on me. I turned the lights back off and I said, I knew that's what he'd said.
Who said?
What Archie said when I left the office. I thought he said that's the way Cavanagh's going to get there.
That's the way Cavanaugh's going to get there.
What did Cavanagh say?
He just laughed.
Still pretty hard to fool you, isn't it, George?
You old son of a gun.
How are you, George?
I'm swell. How are you?
Well, I'm here.
You know, it's been a long time since I heard from you. I never knew what became of you when I went in the Army.
Well, I've been here quite a while now.
Well, that was pretty slick.
What?
Putting Archie up to talking me into pushing your rig back down to Big Spring. And you coming along with me. I owe you a drink.
Yeah.
Where was you?
In the box.
You old son of a gun. Oh, that sure is one on me. That sure is. Say, tomorrow what kind of town is Big Spring, Cavanagh?
Nice place.
You were making a run down there for quite a while.
Yeah. Quite a while, George.
Good fun, huh? Coming back to the old hometown.
Sure is. But this time, I'm gonna stay.
Well, yeah. How come?
I'm done trucking.
No kidding. Oh, that's swell. This really your last trip?
Yep. Last time down the big road, boy.
That's swell. You glad?
Well,
Yeah, I know. I think about getting out of it sometimes too. I don't know. Say, have you got married?
no, I was gonna, but
Sure, I know. I got a girl in Chicago and she wants to get married, but I don't know.
I guess I'll never get married, George.
You can't tell, boy. Say, this is swell seeing you. Well, even if it does have to be your last trip.
I don't know anybody I'd rather take it with, George.
Me too.
Well, I'll never forget how you pulled me out of that thing up there in Illinois that time.
Least I could do after I turned us over.
Always wanted a chance to save your life, kid.
Well, if I get in the jam tonight, there's your chance. I haven't been along this road in a long time,
Yeah, I was thinking of that, George.
So you couldn't be mistaken, George.
Listen, how could I be? I told you about that thing when I pulled him out of the box there in 66. He talked about it. How would anybody else know?
Yeah, you sure got something there, but
For what?
yeah. Go on.
Well,
Did you keep talking to him?
sure.
And he talked to you?
Certainly he did.
I mean, you recognized his voice all right.
I couldn't miss it. What are you driving at?
I was just figuring.
You figure it was somebody else?
Well,
It wasn't. It was Cavanagh.
Okay, go on.
Well, we kept right on rolling. You know that road?
Yeah, US 80?
Yeah.
Sure. Why?
Ain't there a lot of traffic on it usually?
All right, smart.
Huh?
Quite a lot. Why?
It wasn't last night.
Wasn't?
No, practically not at all. No trucks, just a few passenger cars. Nobody coming this way.
That's funny.
Now, I thought it was. I mentioned it to Cavanagh.
What did he say?
Nothing.
That's sure funny, George.
After the moon went under a cloud, kind of, it got darker than the inside of a coffin.
Who said that?
Who said what?
I mean, did you think of that? Or did Cavanagh?
Gee, I don't know. Guess it was me. Oh, no, it was Cavanagh. Yeah, I remember. I said, it's awful dark. And Cavanagh said, dark is the inside of a coffin.
Dark is the inside of a coffin.
Okay, go on.
Now, that sure is a lonesome stretch of road. All the little towns was dark. Didn't see a light for a long, long time. Then we saw a little place alongside the road, and there was a red neon sign on it. And Cavanagh said, pull up a minute.
And where was that, George?
Let's see, about halfway between Eastland and Cisco. You know that curve just before you pass the fish hatchery?
Yeah.
Little place on the right-hand side of the road coming this way. New place, I guess. At least it wasn't there when I used to drive this way.
And what was the name of this place?
Oh, some girl's name. Edwina's place? Edwina, that's it. Funny name. A big neon sign. You know the place?
I used to know it, yeah.
Well, so we pulled up, and Cavanagh said, sit there a minute to me, and he got down. I was going to come along and have some coffee, but he said, no, they're closed. And anyway, I just want to talk to Edwina a minute. So I sort of laughed and said, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah? And did you see this Edwina?
I could see somebody moving around inside. They just had a couple little night lights on, see? And then the door opened, and she came out.
So, you did see her then?
Well, I figured this was Cavanagh's private business. I wouldn't want somebody staring at me, you know?
Yeah. But did you see her?
Yeah, I saw her.
You go on.
Well, I sat there and smoked a cigarette. I could see they was talking, standing there in the neon light. I could kind of hear Cavanagh, but I couldn't hear her.
Yeah?
What?
I said, yeah.
Well, I guess it was 5 minutes maybe when Cavanagh clumbed back into the cab. I rolled away slow, getting back on the road. And he was hanging out the window, kind of waving at her. And as we pulled away, I could see her in the mirror, waving back at him.
So you could see her?
Well, certainly I could see her. I mean, am I blind? She was standing there in that red light. And it looked just as if the place was on fire behind her. What's the matter with you?
I'll tell you in a minute.
Was that the girl Cavanagh was going to marry?
Yes, yeah, that was the girl.
You know, I had an idea it was.
Yeah, that was the girl.
Oh, it's too bad.
So, you say this was between Eastland and Cisco.
That's right.
That's the place.
What's the matter with you?
Well, George, I'll tell you. Edwina built that place about 1.5 years ago.
I knew I'd never seen it before.
And she and Cavanagh were in love. He used to stop there every trip, naturally.
Sure.
And they planned to get married last month.
What happened?
Why, the place burned down a week before the wedding date, George.
What?
And Edwina was burned to death in that fire.
I know I saw her. I saw Cavanagh standing there with his arms around her.
I won't argue with you, George.
Oh, maybe I fell asleep there while Cavanagh was out of the cab.
Maybe.
No, but I saw the neon sign. I couldn't dream that.
Well, if you could dream the rest of it, you could dream that part, George.
Well, maybe I dreamed Cavanagh too.
I don't think you did.
No, I know I didn't. He was in that cab with me all the way from where I stopped there at Strawn. Why didn't he say something?
Did you ask him?
No.
Well,
but where did he go? What happened to me last night?
you killed 3 men.
I didn't. I tell you, I didn't do it.
Well, you suppose you tell me just what did happen, George.
You don't believe anything I'm telling you.
I didn't say that.
Well, do you? Do you believe Cavanagh was with me last night?
That I believe.
Well, what do you think happened to him? Well, you think I killed him? Do you?
No, George.
Well, where is he? Do you know?
I'll tell you later.
Where?
We'll see.
Listen, I'm just about going nuts on this thing.
So you left this place.
Yeah. Cavanagh didn't say anything for a long time.
But he was there, though.
He was smoking a cigarette. I could see him. Oh, I'll tell you how I can prove he was there. Look, See here, I smoke Pall Malls.
Yeah.
Cavanagh always smoked Tareytons. He always tore the cork tips off him. He didn't like cork tips.
Yeah, I know that.
Well, I bet you'll find the 3 or 4 cork tips on the floor of the cab.
Yeah, we found them.
You see?
Go on with your story, George.
Yeah, we rode along for a long time. I didn't want to say anything. I figured he was thinking about the girl. And, well, we went through Abilene and on through Sweetwater, and still he didn't say a word. I got to wondering about gas, so I finally turned to him and said, "Hey, Cavanagh,
What, George?
how's this baby on gas? We need to stop for some, you suppose?"
Nah, we got enough to make Big Spring. Manuel filled the tanks, didn't he?
Yeah,
We got enough.
okay.
Want me to spell you a while?
No, I'm all right. Hey, I can't have much of a load tonight. Way we're rolling.
Yeah.
Archie was awful funny about what's back there in the big box. Handed me the manifest all sealed up.
You don't know what's back there.
No, do you?
Sure,
What? Must be awful valuable.
it was once.
No, what is it?
You'll find out.
What's the idea?
What do you mean?
Well, don't you trust the guy?
Cut it out, George.
Oh, nuts to you if you don't want to tell me.
Don't nag a guy on his last trip, George.
Okay, it's none of my business. I hate to hear you talk about that last trip stuff, Cavanagh.
Everybody's got to take his last trip, George. It's a good break I get to make it with my old pal.
I wish I'd known before you was down here.
Yeah, so do I. I'll be in Big Spring a long time, George. You can come and visit me.
I sure will.
You do that, George. Don't forget,
You kidding? I'll be there.
you're a good pal.
Hey, wait, do I see a flashlight down the road?
Something.
Now, more inspectors, I suppose. The way these guys pick on a truck, axle inspectors, lights inspectors, plant inspectors. Well, nothing to do but stop. So I look out, and there's this car right across the road, and 2 men, no, 3 men, standing there in my headlights, and each one of them's got a shotgun. I open the cab door, and the nearest fella motions with his shotgun.
Okay, bud. Climb down.
So I climbed down. Now, I don't know what these inspectors are doing with shotguns, but I take no chances. Now, I'm on the ground in a hurry without waiting for Cavanagh, and believe me, I got my hands way up. I don't say a word, and the guy prods me with a shotgun.
You hauling the silk?
I say, "The what?"
The silk.
And I say, "I don't know what's in that truck, mister." And he laughs. And all of a sudden, I get the idea. These guys ain't inspectors at all. This is a hijacking. And that's why Archie was so cagey about the cargo. Silk. Silk's been coming in from Japan lately, I read somewhere. I didn't get much of a chance to do any more thinking.
Where's your helper?
And I look up through the open door of the cab, and the cab's empty. And I get it. Good old Cavanagh. He'd climb back into the box, I figured. And if I knew Cavanagh, there'd be a gun in there. Yeah, maybe Cavanagh was going to get that chance to save my life after all. And the guy poked me with a shotgun again.
Where's your helper, I said.
I haven't even gotten any helper.
Keep your guns on him, lads. I'm going to have a look in that cab.
And the guns of the 2 others swung around on me from the front of the truck as he started to cross between it and the car to climb up the opposite side. And I glanced up again into the cab, and it was empty. And suddenly, that big old truck started to move, and there was nobody behind the wheel. All 3 of the men were trapped against their car, and they bumped against each other as they tried to dodge, but they were too late. The 17 tons of that truck and trailer were leaping at them like some monster out of a nightmare. And a running board smacked me to the ground, and I heard one last scream at Cavanagh's truck and a horrible roaring and grinding of gears crashing down on him.
Go on, George.
Well, that's all. When I came to, the highway patrol car was there, and the truck was standing alongside the road, beyond what was left of the car and the 3 men. And
Yeah,
Cavanagh was gone.
that's what you told the boys.
Well, they wouldn't let me look for him.
Yes, I know.
And they brought me in here.
Yeah,
And that's the whole story. Now you're going to get out of here and find my buddy?
No, George. We know where he is.
What? Where?
They're unloading your truck across the street there.
And I walked to the window. They had the big doors in the back of the big box open, and 6 men were carrying something out. You know? Yes, a coffin. Cavanagh's coffin. Cavanagh had ridden with me last night on his last ride. That's why the other drivers wouldn't take the run. Superstitious fools. Or am I the one that's superstitious? Cavanagh rode the big box with me. Thank you to our wonderful performers and to our brilliant production manager, Barb Shoulders. And to you, our audience. We hope you enjoyed the show and the season. Stay tuned for information about the next season of Productions Vintage Radio Hour, with new voices coming to you from across the country. Until then, be safe, be kind, and